Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is December 21st, 2022, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's up out there, you guys? This is Ben Dickerson. I'm your co-host. I was a sterling. Yes, I said sterling. 13-3 last week. Knocked it out the box. Woo! The kid is hot. I'm glad I am because I'm in a lot of fantasy leagues and I didn't do very well this year. This is one of my worst years ever. But I am doing well in my main two money leagues, so that is a good thing. Other than that, we're coming down the stretch. Teams are fighting for playoff position. This is some of the best football you're going to see in a regular season coming up right now, folks. Let's go.
Let's get it. Let's get it. We're going to start with the stats. We're going to take a look at the Sterling Net Point Power Ranking, see where everybody stacks up as of week, 15?
We're going into week 16. Oh, as of week 15, yes.
As of week 15. So let's get ready to rock that. Here you go. As usual, we're going to start with the bottom third dish, kind of a third, but it's 21 through 32. We're not going to spend a lot of time. As you can see, I have some color added in the team names with some letters. And the letter in this area is basically E, standing for eliminated.
Yes.
So as I was saying, this is the E stands for eliminated. So you're looking at basically Denver, Chicago, Arizona, LA Rams, and Houston. Their fate has been settled. The teams that are still down in this area include the one team you had hope for as of last week, Benny. We'll see. That would be the Chargers at 21, 22, the Saints, 24, the Tennessee Titans, 25, the Carolina Panthers, 26, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 27, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and 31, Indianapolis Colts. That ranges from -2 down to the Colts, which is -6.6. So again, that's on average. For average net points, if you wanted to know what the gross net points were through week 14, you can multiply that number times 14. And that's a big number as a gross number for the Indianapolis Colts to having given up so many points more than they scored. Speaking of scoring, in the next category, APF, average points for, there's your scoring ranging from 20.5 down to 15.5. Denver's in last place. Green Bay is in 21st place. In between, you have the Saints, Jets, Panthers, Commanders, Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers, Buccaneers, Colts, Houston, and the Rams. So those teams are teams that are not scoring more than 20 points a game, ergo a big part of their trouble. Next category we have is APA, average points against. Again, last place, 32, you have the Arizona Cardinals. And Jacksonville Jaguars are holding up the 21st place. That means they're giving up an average of between 23.4 and 26.6 points per game. So again, about a 3-point separate number 21 from number 32. You're looking at Atlanta, Vegas, the Colts, the Chargers, Dolphins. Look where the Dolphins are. That's not going to be good against the Niners. Why do I say against the Niners? We're not playing them guys. Houston, Minnesota, Seattle, Chicago, and Detroit. And then the last column, we have average turnover differential. These are all in the minus. Again, your net points and your turnover differential can be both positive and negative. In last place, you have the Indianapolis Colts. In 21st place, you have Miami Dolphins. Between negative 0.1 and negative 0.9, Miami, Carolina, Vegas, the Jets, Cleveland, Green Bay, Houston, Tampa Bay, the Rams, Kansas City at 30th, New Orleans, and Indianapolis. So there you are in the 21st through 32nd place for all these categories: net points, points for, points against, and turnover differential. You got anything on this, Benny?
I see one thing just here right in front of me that is very surprising to me. although it's probably been there and I didn't notice it possibly before. And that's how low Kansas City is rated in turnover differential. I'm very surprised at that. They're usually very careful with the ball offensively. So to be that low means that they're giving the ball away more than they're taking it away. And that's not a good sign for Kansas City. But as you know, I'm not a big proponent of the Kansas City defense. Now, after that, yes, we go over to average net points. And yes, the LA Chargers are sitting at 21, getting ready to break into the top 20. I'm still touting them as a playoff team. I still believe in them. The other teams like the Saints and the Titans, especially the Titans, are still looking at a very good possibility of making the playoffs. But it's kind of crazy. Tampa Bay also, but it's kind of crazy that teams like Carolina and New Orleans are still not mathematically eliminated. Not necessarily because how much better they're playing, but possibly how much worse the teams that are ahead of them are playing in their division. If I said that correctly, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's what I'm looking at right now. So yeah, I'm still pulling for the Chargers to make that big move.
All right, pulling for the Chargers. I think if the thing that I'm looking at is I'm looking at Miami and Minnesota defensively at 26th and 29th. And I can understand Minnesota, they gave up all of those points early to the Colts. Miami was in a scrum with Buffalo, so I kind of understand that they gave up some points, but that doesn't bode well for a playoff future.
No, it does not.
11 through 20, we see our first playoff team in Minnesota coming in at 12th. 11th is Detroit. And this again is in net points going from 0.4 down to negative 1.9. So you have that turnover here. Detroit, Minnesota. I'm going from 11 to 20. Detroit, Minnesota, Las Vegas, Miami, Seattle, Washington, Cleveland, the Giants, Atlanta, and Green Bay. Green Bay tied with Atlanta at negative 1.9. The Giants at negative 1.8. Cleveland minus 0.9. Washington minus 0.8. Seattle breaking even at 0. And everybody else, Detroit is plus 0.4. And Minnesota, Vegas, and Miami tied at 0.1 on the positive side. Points 4. In 11th place, we have San Francisco. They've been inching up at 24.1. You have your Giants in at 20th place at 20.5. So we got about a 4 points a spread between 11 and 20 with Jacksonville, Cleveland, the Chargers, Atlanta, Baltimore, New England, Arizona, and Chicago in that grouping between 11 and 20. In terms of defense, between 11 and 20, you have Cincinnati at 11, giving up 20.6 points per game. Cleveland at 20th, giving up 23.3 points per game. So you only got about a 3-point spread there. Cincinnati's in 11th, and then from there you go Tennessee, Pittsburgh, New York Giants, Carolina, Green Bay, New Orleans, Rams, and Kansas City there. Okay, so they were all the way near the bottom in terms of turnover differential. They're 19th, talking about Kansas City giving up 23 points per game in terms of that. And turnover differential, we have a split between positive and negative. 11 and 12 are tied for Denver and the Chargers at 0.2 on the plus side. Buffalo and Seattle are tied for 13th and 14th at 0.1. Pittsburgh breaks even at 0. And then we have negatives, 0.1 for Chicago, Tennessee, Arizona, and Atlanta, and Washington. So you got a 5-way tie there at negative 0.1. So that's your group in the middle, Benny. What do you got?
Just so that we're clear, I'm looking in average net points. The Z next to Minnesota means specifically what? That they clinched a playoff spot or that they won the division?
Let's see.
Because because I want to make that clear, because
They clinched the division.
They clinched the division. Okay, so they clinched the division, a division that Detroit is in, but Detroit is rated one spot higher than them in average net points, which means that we have to, again, remind people this is all about the numbers. Okay, it's all about the numbers. It's not necessarily about wins and losses. It's about average net points. That doesn't necessarily mean that Detroit is better than Minnesota, but then again,
So it means they played better.
they played better.
That's what, they did a better job
Overall, right? And this is for the entire season up to last weekend, week 15. But the bottom line is wins and losses. The Minnesota Vikings have clinched the NFC North, and they are in the playoffs and looking good. Detroit being ranked overall in net points at 11 bodes well for them as they still fight for a spot or a chance to make it into the playoffs, as do the Raiders and Dolphins and Seattle. Now, I'll tell you the truth. When I look at Las Vegas at 13 down to Green Bay at 20, there's a lot of ifs in there. But the Giants, believe it or not, as much as people don't want to hear it, are actually sitting in a really good spot. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and believe me, playoff scenarios is not my strength. It's a lot of stuff that has to happen, okay? But I believe the Giants' playoff scenario is pretty good. In fact, I would say they probably have their playoff fate in their own hands. It's going to take a couple of wins, and I don't think they need to win out. So that's a good thing for the Giants. Miami might not quite be in as good a position. Neither is Seattle, considering the toughness of the division that they're in. Everybody else is kind of up in the air as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure what's going on. So, yeah, there we go. We're looking at Detroit in a good spot, and the Giants, even though they're ranked down at 18th in average net points, are actually in a good spot to make the playoffs.
All right. One thing I noticed in the media recently, Ben, is something that we noticed a while back, and we've been tracking it. And that is the seemingly incongruent situation between the Minnesota Vikings' average net points and their win-loss record.
Right.
And they're starting to talk about it. And they're like, how are these guys? What are they? 11-3?
Yeah, I believe so.
With an average net point of 0.1.
It's crazy.
That means that every game is a squeaker with the Vikings.
Right. The difference between the Vikings this year and last year, because last year was the same way. They had a ton of squeakers, but they came out on the losing end of most of them last year, where this year they're coming out on the winning end.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about them as we go through the matchups, but we noticed that a while back. The media is just starting to pick up on it, but this is the kind of stuff that we track. So it makes sense that we would be saying this and be like, geez, these guys are winning a lot, but not by much.
Right.
Not by much. And it's still bringing out the questions about Kirk Cousins. I'm still seeing the do you trust Kirk Cousins question being bandied around, which I always find very interesting. So there you got 11 through 20. Let's get to your top 10. Bam! We got the top 10.
All right, we got some clinching.
As I said to a number of people, our net point rankings are no joke. When you hit the top 5, all clinched some level of the playoffs.
Something don't look right. I'm sorry.
Oh, you know something? I'm sorry. I did this and I thought I fixed it. In second place, let me go back. That should be the Buffalo Bills.
In second?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the Buffalo Bills.
So
and
they
I thought I
places
fixed
with
that.
the Eagles again.
I saw it earlier. I forgot to put it into the PowerPoint. I fixed it, but I didn't get it into the PowerPoint. So
okay,
that's the Buffalo Bills there.
Okay, and again, the X means clinch the playoff spot, correct?
X means clinched playoff. Yes.
Okay. So let's remind everybody, Philadelphia's clinched the playoff spot. They have not yet secured the division. I know that's their goal, to win the division, to win the #1 seed, and to get home field advantage throughout. So they still got a little ways to go to get that done. So do the Bills. So do the Niners. On the heels of the Eagles is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, the Niners seem to have won the division, but
I'm sorry. My eyes betrayed
their
me.
playoff positioning is in question. They have a Z next to their name.
Well, their seed would be in content.
Right.
Right. Would be in question. Okay. Dallas is still hanging around, and Kansas City has won the AFC West. So they took care of their business there. Okay, great. I'm sorry. Proceed.
No problem. I mean, Kansas City is right there, 5th, and their nemesis, the Cincinnati Bengals, are right behind them. Kansas City averaging plus 6.6 net points. The Bengals plus 5.8. I neglected to mention Philly is 10.2. Buffalo, which is in second place, I have that wrong there. Philly is 9.6. The Niners are plus 9.1. Dallas is plus 8.9. And so with Dallas being right there, that's what's kind of tripping up Philly from having completed that division. So that's going to be a big game. Big fun, big fun. I talked to our friend Mark Russell. He's called me 2 or 3 times. He keeps calling me to ask for my opinion, and then he tells me everything he thinks.
It's like, why is he nervous?
You know what? He's an Eagle fan, and Eagle fans are more worried about the other team than they are their own team.
Always.
You know?
Always.
So he was like, the Cowboys, are they going to, can they, don't forget the Cowboys, man. Look, if y'all can't beat the Cowboys with Minshew, with all y'all stuff you got, and the Jaguars just beat them boys, you know what I'm saying? So, I expect him to be able to beat the Dallas with Minshew, to be quite honest with you. We don't change the bias plus score, even though sometimes we wish we could when they change personnel on us, but it is what it is. Let's finish this out. So we have Philly, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Baltimore at 2.9 in 7th place. The Patriots, we'll talk about them guys, in 8th place at plus 2.2. The Jets at 9th place at plus 1.3, and Jacksonville in 10th place at 0.4, all on the plus side. Your scoring ranges from Kansas City in 1st place down to Vegas in 10th place at 24.1. Kansas City's putting up 29.6. So you got about 5.5 points of a spread between 1st and 10th place, with Philly in 2nd at 29.4. Dallas right behind them at 28.1. Buffalo 27.5. Detroit 26.4. That's your top 5. Then you have Cincinnati, Seattle, Minnesota, Miami, and Vegas. They're all between 26 and 24 points per game. So they're putting up some decent numbers. My magic number is 28 points per game. That's a touchdown and an extra point 1 per quarter. So that's what I'm looking at. San Fran is coming in number 1 in average points against. This is your defensive scoring rankings. So you have 15 through 20, again, a 5-point spread between San Fran. Next, you have Buffalo, then Denver, then Jets. Jets is hanging in there. Look at that, man. Baltimore, Philly at 6, Dallas at 7. Philly and Dallas just can't get away from each other, can they? Then you have the Patriots at 8. Washington, let's say it with me now, Benny. Commanders at 19.7 points per game that they're allowing, and they're in 9th place. 10th place is Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay can't talk too badly about their defense when their defense is in the top 10. It shows.
Well, they're in the top 10 in average points against, but they're still struggling.
Yeah, because
not the Tampa Bay defense that we're used to. That's the only problem.
They can't score no points. You know what I say? They're Gronkless. That's their problem.
Well, I don't.
Benny,
At this point, I think it's a little bit more than that. That
well,
wouldn't hurt.
let me tell you, it's called, it's what they call a security blanket. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, gronk them. Remember, I used to say that all the time. Gronk them.
Yeah, I got you, but they it's a little bit more than that at this point.
Well, believe me, it wouldn't have to be that much more because he'll block, he'll catch, but he ain't coming back. So
He's
done
not
deal.
gonna. He's gonna. Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Number one place in turnover differential, Philadelphia at 0.9. Now remember, they were close to 2 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So they've fallen back a little bit with a couple of the turnovers that they've had in the last few games, but they're still in first place. And again, they cannot get away from Dallas, who is in second place at 0.6. Again, these are all positive numbers. And here comes the Niners at 0.5, tied with Baltimore 0.5. Cincinnati rounds out the top 5 at 0.4. These are all positive numbers again. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4-way tie between 6th and 9th place with Detroit, Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Minnesota Vikings. And rounding out 10th place in turnover differential is the New England Patriots. I don't know, Benny. That crazy play where the Patriots, threw the ball at the end, and we'll talk a little more about it, but
Right.
would that be considered a turnover?
Absolutely.
Okay. I wonder who gets credit for that. I guess Ramondre, the guy who threw the ball.
Well, in fantasy, I believe, and you know what? I should have specifically looked that up. I'll tell you the truth. In fantasy, I believe that would go to the Raiders defense as a turnover of some sort. It's not exactly a fumble. Actually, they would probably consider that a fumble. It's not a forward pass, so it can't be an interception. So if it's a backward pass or a lateral, I would consider that a fumble. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to look that up. Tell you the truth.
All right, we'll look that up and get into that. Next up, Benny, we're going to look at the matchups. We're going to start off with the Thursday night game, some TNF on Prime at Prime. Let's get ready to kick that off here with the Jaguars and the Jets.
Right off the bat, we got a possible intriguing game here.
Guess what?
What?
It is highlighted as such.
Okay.
It's highlighted as such. And I'll tell you why, Benny.
Mm-hmm.
Bias plus score 1.1 favors the Jaguars.
Okay.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are net point 0.4, right?
Okay.
The Jets are greater than that at plus 1.3.
Okay.
So you would think, the Jets.
However,
the Jaguars are 0.3 positive and turnover differential are minus 0.2.
Oh.
You take that differential and you apply our new friend, the Pythagorean calculation, and all of a sudden the point value of those turnovers is greater than the net point differential, and it's swung over just that easily to the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it for me an intriguing game. Right there. Jaguars are coming up rather to visit the Jets.
Yes.
In the same stadium that you guys play in. What's the weather going to look like?
MetLife Stadium. This weekend's going to be bad, bro. This weekend is supposed to be bad. Considering we're in Philadelphia and New York is just a few miles away, if you really want to, consider the weather. I know I took a look at it to see if we were going to have practice for my flag team this weekend. We were going to try to move it to Saturday early in the morning if we could, so that we didn't have to practice on our normal Sunday morning, which is actually Christmas morning. And when I saw that it's going to rain pretty much all day tomorrow, without a doubt, all day Friday, and Saturday morning or Saturday, the high looks like 21 degrees. I was like, fellas, stay home. Enjoy your Christmas. It could be really ugly out there at MetLife on the weekend. This game is going to be played when? This is a Thursday night game?
Yep, 8:15 p.m.
Okay, so there'll probably be rain. I don't know what the temperature will be because I think Friday and Saturday is going to be worse than Thursday, but it won't be pretty. Not at all.
What's the name of the stadium again?
MetLife.
I'll see if I can pull that up, but go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, I've been praising Doug Peterson and the job that he's done with the young Jaguars, and especially quarterback Trevor Lawrence. All of a sudden, with 3 weeks left in the regular season, the Jags are within striking distance of the Titans and the AFC South title. Yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars are within striking distance of winning the AFC South. They trailed Dallas 14-0 at home last week before unleashing a strong passing attack with some timely runs against the normally stout Cowboys defense. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them to the red-hot fantasy wide receiver Zay Jones. And even though they turned the ball over to Dallas 3 times, the defense played surprisingly tough, sacking Dak Prescott 3 times and picking him off twice. The biggest one was a pick 6 by safety Rayshon Jenkins in overtime for the winning score. Yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars took the Dallas Cowboys to overtime and beat them. Big game, watched it in the bar with a bunch of Cowboys fans. Some of them pulled their hats over their heads and stormed out of the bar as soon as the game ended. It was really bad. Now, the Jets
really good, depending.
Well, it was really good for me. It was really bad for them. Yeah, me being a Giants fan, it was good for me. It's bad for them. And the Eagles fans loved it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. The Jets defense made it extremely tough on the high-flying Detroit offense. But on a 4th and 1 with 1:49 remaining, expecting a quarterback sneak, they got burned on a pass from Jared Goff to tight end Brock Wright that went 51 yards. As well as they played defensively, Zach Wilson wasn't very accurate. He did throw for 317 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he had an opportunity to get the Jets a last-second chance to tie the game and go into overtime. But the kicker, Greg Zuerlein, missed a 58-yarder. It's a little bit, I'm not going to say it was out of his range, but it was a bit long for him. So he didn't make it. The Jets ended up losing that game. Now, even though they're going to be home, I'm telling you right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars are looking really good to me. They look solid on offense, surprisingly good on defense. The Jets are reeling a little bit. I really want to call this a Jets victory, but I'm having a hard time doing it. Dougie P has got Trevor Lawrence looking like sunshine on Remember the Titans. This thing is crazy what's going on in Jacksonville. I'm going to go with the Jags on this one.
Thursday's weather says a slight chance of rain and snow before 10 a.m., then rain, high near 54. East wind 5 to 10 miles per hour with gusts as high as 21 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation, 80%, little and no snow accumulation expected.
Okay, so let me say this. Let me say this, and I got to make my prediction now. And I don't know exactly what's going on with the quarterback situation there. If Zach Wilson starts this game, the Jaguars win. I'm confident of that. If Mike White starts this game, my confidence goes down a little bit but I'm going to stick with the Jags.
All right, sticking with the bias, sticking with the Jaguars. Bias plus score is 1.1. And again, that bias plus was fueled by turnover differential. So this is going to be very interesting. All right, and a potential intriguing game of the week. And I don't normally do Thursday night games because I'll be Thursday working on the all of this video stuff. But I had to really think about it because it's an amazing thing when you see that change there. All right, let's go. Bills at Bears. Bias plus score 15.3 favors the Bills.
Okay, so last week, playing host to the warm weather Miami Dolphins turned out to be a lot tougher than most people thought. The Bills found themselves, let's face it, coming up to the game, it was a big deal about the cold weather and the Dolphins players being from Miami. But they played a lot better than I thought they would, and a lot of people thought they would. The Bills found themselves down by 8 in the fourth quarter before Josh Allen led them on 2 scoring drives, the second one ending in a 25-yard Tyler Bass field goal as time expired. Big win for the Bills. They are now sitting at 11-3. They go to Chicago to play the 3-11 Bears. The Bears last week played host to the 11-3 Eagles in what looked like a terrible mismatch. But because Justin Fields was able to once again put the entire Chicago offense on his back, it turned out to be pretty competitive until close to the 2-minute warning. He only threw for 152 yards, but he did complete 2 touchdown passes, and he was the team's leading rusher with 95 yards, which actually gave him 1,000 yards on the season. Again, Justin Fields pretty much is the whole Chicago offense, but there's no way, even at home, they'll be able to handle Buffalo Bills. Take Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty bias plus, Benny. And did want to mention, let's see here, Buffalo Bills. So now we are into Saturday football. So we have the Thursday night game, Jaguars, Jets, and then we have Saturday, and we're kicking it off here with Bills and Bears, but there are a number of Saturday games and only a few Sunday games, only 3 to be quite honest with you. Funny thing, Benny, I saw the basketball lineup for Christmas Day. The NBA is ready to go head-to-head with the NFL for your TVs on Christmas Day.
That's going to be crazy.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Some nice games all in the making. They'll be matched up against each other.
Are the Sixers playing?
Pardon?
I think Sixers Knicks. Christmas Day?
Don't know. I don't know.
Well, we'll check on that. Okay, so
who's up? Falcons at Ravens. Bias plus score 14.4 favors the Ravens. Not sure who's playing at quarterback for the Ravens. What do you think?
Let's see. Falcons at Ravens. I believe I heard some scuttlebutt about Lamar Jackson being ready to go. But that still remains to be seen. We'll have to see if he practices tomorrow. Falcons are 5-9.
I had not heard that at all.
You didn't hear anything about Lamar being ready this week?
Nope.
Not even a questionable?
Nope.
I'm pretty sure he's questionable. I'm not sure if he's actually put in any practice time, be it limited or whatever. So I'm going to have to double check on that. The Falcons just aren't very good on either side of the ball. Let's start right there. They depend on their running game almost exclusively, especially now since they decided to finish the season with rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder, and their defense basically stinks. Lamar Jackson missed another game, and the Ravens lost to the division rival Cleveland and lost the division lead to the Bengals. J.K. Dobbins actually had a really good game on the ground, 125 yards on 13 carries. We've been waiting for a game like this out of J.K. Dobbins, who's been hurt off and on all season, but he really put together a nice game in this one. But Baltimore never found the end zone along with turning the ball over to Cleveland twice. So they ended up losing that game. I believe at home, the 9-5 Ravens should be able to take care of the Falcons without too much trouble. The Falcons have a decent run game, but it's not consistent. Again, starting a rookie quarterback to finish out the season just to see what he's got, I don't think that's going to be enough to handle the Ravens. Ravens still are trying to win the division and make sure they get into the playoffs. They have a good record right now. A win will do them justice. I'm going to take Baltimore in this one.
Going with the Ravens, going with the bias. Next up, Seahawks at Chiefs. Now, this is an interesting game. Both teams have top offenses. So both teams can score. The Chiefs defense is lower. I think they came in the lower third, but the Seahawks defense is all the way at the bottom of the lower third. They broke even in net points, and the Chiefs are the #1 scoring offense. So this kind of has some intrigue to it, and it's in Kansas City. But I expect the Chiefs to come out. Basically, that's what the bias is saying. What do you think?
Yeah, we got a couple of little shaky defenses here. The Seahawks have now lost 4 of their last 5 games. Now that they've gone down to the Niners last week. Geno Smith threw for 238 yards and 1 touchdown, but he was harassed constantly by the Niners defense, which you know I love. They sacked him 3 times. They hit him 9 times. He took a pretty good beat up. And as far as the Chiefs are concerned, it was tough sledding for those guys last week against the Texans. Texans have really been playing tough, man. They're really playing hard for Lovey. Lovey better not get fired, man. They better keep Lovey on board there because he's got his players really believe. And they, talent-wise, on paper, you look at the Texans, put them up against any other team, they don't compare. But they are playing hard for Lovey, man. Anyway, last week, even the almighty Chiefs found themselves trailing for most of the game, actually. And they had to go to overtime before they put the Texans away. I don't know if they looked ahead to the Seahawks. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know if they just plain took the Texans lightly. Something went wrong, but they did come out with a win. Now they're back home. They should be able to handle the Seahawks. Chiefs should win that game.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Chiefs. Giants at Vikings. Bias plus score 1.9 favors the Vikings.
Yes.
Go get Kirk Cousins, Benny. Go get that guy. What's his name? Thibodeau?
Thibodeau. Giants first-round draft pick. Giants first-round draft pick, Kayvon Thibodeau, had himself a night last week against the Commanders. He had a strip sack, a scoop and score. That topped off a night where he had a total of 12 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Very big night for Kayvon Thibodeau. This is why he was their #1 draft pick. If he continues to play like this, he's going to elevate their defense big time. Daniel Jones was sharp, and the offense was balanced. 32 passes by Daniel Jones, 32 runs by the running backs and Daniel Jones, who didn't actually run a lot in this game, far less than he normally does. Saquon went for 87 yards and a touchdown on 18 carries. Giants looked really good against Commanders in a game that I thought was a must-win. They are now 8-5, but they play the Minnesota Vikings, who put on an explosive display last week as they completed the greatest regular season comeback in NFL history against the Indianapolis Colts. They were down 33-0 at halftime and 36-7 late in the third quarter. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions along the way and got sacked 7 times. So it was no walk in the park, but he scorched the Colts secondary throughout the second half, basically from the back end of the third quarter and through the fourth quarter for 4 touchdowns. And he got some nice work on the ground too by Dalvin Cook, 95 yards, 17 carries. The defense did their part also. They sacked Matt Ryan 3 times. They hit him 7 times, and they recovered a fumble. Big time. Bro, I have to call it big time by Kirk Cousins. The greatest regular season comeback in NFL history. He's in the books. That being said, for all intents and purposes, here I go again. Here I go again.
That's a song.
Listen, I'm going to pick the Giants to go into Minnesota and beat the Vikings in a knockdown, drag-out bloodbath.
You're going with the Giants?
Yes, in a slow, boring, punch-it-out slugfest.
I will say I will give credit to the Giants. To the Vikings for that comeback. You got to give them credit for that comeback, for just having the veracity to attack it like they did and come back. I do have some specific comments, but they're more focused toward the Indianapolis Colts. So I'll wait till we get to that one. So as of right now, you're going against the bias, going with the Giants.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Saints at Browns. Bias plus score 4. 4 favors the Browns. And Deshaun's playing a little better, I think. They're saying he's starting to get his football legs under him.
Yeah, every week he looks a little bit better. I got to give it to him. He's starting to get it together. Let's see. Saints at Cleveland. Now the Saints are 5-9. And believe it or not, they are still mathematically alive in the playoff hunt, as we discussed earlier in the program. They hosted the Falcons last week, and they got by with 2 touchdown passes by Andy Dalton and 1 by Taysom Hill. Alvin Kamara paced the team on the ground with 91 yards on 21 carries, and a defense which gave up 231 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, sacked rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder 4 times. So I talked about the Falcons before. I told you the ground attack is pretty much all they got, and they really got it done on the ground, to tell you the truth. Problem is they're not going to get a whole lot out of Desmond Ridder. He is still a rookie, still feeling his way. They sacked him 4 times. They gave up very little through the air. Saints looked strong, but again, it was against the Falcons. Deshaun Watson was able to win his home debut. This was his first game in Cleveland starting with a 91-yard scoring drive in the third quarter that he finished with the touchdown pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones. The drive came after Denzel Ward picked off Tyler Huntley, and the Ravens weren't able to find the end zone the entire game and were also betrayed by the usually reliable leg of Justin Tucker, who made 1 out of 3 field goals. That's the big story of that game, believe it or not. Justin Tucker, without a doubt, to me, is one of the greatest kickers of all time in the NFL. And this guy has the leg of all legs. And for some reason, he couldn't get it done last week. I got to go with the Browns on this one. A team that I pretty much was giving up on as dead and buried still has an opportunity to possibly make the playoffs. So I'm picking the Browns to beat the Saints.
All right, going with the Browns. Not a problem. Let's see here. Okay, Benny, next up we have the Bengals at the Patriots. Bias plus score 4.4 favors those Bengals.
Yes, the Bengals should be favored. They're 10-4. They're leading their division, the AFC North. The Patriots just had a pretty bad loss, but we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the Bengals first. They have to go up to New England. Right now, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are continuing this surge as they continue to look like the best team in the AFC. Yeah, I said it, Chiefs fans. The Bengals are looking to me, like the best team in the AFC. They start off slow in this game, falling behind 17-0 in the second quarter against the Buccaneers before they kicked it into gear. The defense recorded 1 interception, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 sack, and 7 quarterback hits on Tom Brady. The interception and the strip sack resulted directly to touchdowns. Burrow threw 4 touchdowns in total. It's been called the stupidest play ever. Yes, I'm talking about the end of the Patriots game. We talked about this before. I'm not going to take a lot of time on this, but I got to mention. Remember early in the season when we were talking about the brain trust, and we talked about the Patriots and Bill Belichick, who's considered by many to be the greatest coach of all time, not naming a specific offensive coordinator, but basically leaving the offensive play calling to a guy who's been a career defensive coordinator and sharing the job with a guy who was a special teams coach and a fired head coach by my team, the New York Football Giants. Are you kidding me? Again, in this game, something happened that's been called the stupidest play ever. A monumental embarrassing way to lose a football game. The Patriots were in a tie ball game with the Raiders. They had the ball and looked like they were going to run out the final seconds of regulation and go to overtime. Instead, after a nice run play and good yardage, with no time remaining on the clock, Ramondre Stevenson, about to be tackled, which would have ended the game in regulation and sent it to overtime, inexplicably lateraled the ball to wide receiver Jacoby Myers, who first ran a little bit backwards and then tried a cross-field lateral to quarterback Mac Jones. Number one, why are you trying a cross-field lateral? Number two, why are you lateraling to Mac and Cheese? The cross-field lateral was picked off and returned for the winning score by the Raiders DN Chandler Jones, who used to play for the Patriots and in fact was let go even though he was their all-time sack leader. That's another story in itself. Embarrassing. Take the Bengals to go up to New England and handle them boys.
I have one other question.
Yes.
Why were they even running a play?
Yeah, they could took a knee.
You know what I'm saying? Know what you're going to do. Let your team.
And that's why I blame it on the coaches.
Yeah. Why are you even running the play? I mean, because he could have fumbled the ball. A number of things could have happened. You know, the exchange. You know, the miracle in the Meadowland, right?
As a former player,
hand it off to somebody.
As a guy who's played football and coached football, I understand how sometimes your brain can short circuit in a specific situation. I'm thinking Ramondre Stevenson had a nice run and he thought for a second, you know what? We might be able to capitalize on this long run and maybe break something. So he pitches it to Jacoby Myers. But at that point, Myers, who I'm sure wasn't expecting it, went into, oh my God, we got to score at all costs mode when he could have just ran out of bounds. He took full responsibility for doing something dumb. I got to give him credit for that. But that mess was crazy, man. That was crazy. They pretty much just gave the Raiders the win.
And great satisfaction because when you can stiff arm their quarterback into the dirt, that's really
fun. He got mushed.
All right, Bengals at Patriots. You're going with the Bengals, going with the bias.
Yep.
Texans at Titans. You say that fast 5 times?
No.
Let's score 5.9 favors the Titans.
Texans at Titans. I'm sorry. Who would you say was
The
for the
Titans are
Lions?
favorite, and the Titans are going to be coming in with their backup quarterback, one Malik Willis.
Oh my. When did you hear that?
I've been hearing something to that nature all along.
What's wrong with Tannehill?
Let's see here. Tannehill,
Is he hurt? He's got to be hurt.
you got to be hurt. Either that or they're like, we're out of it, so what the heck?
But they're not out of it.
Titans Ryan Tannehill very likely out for the rest of the season.
Oh. Oh. They're out of it. Hold up.
Ankle injury.
What kind of injury?
Ankle.
Oh my God. Hold up. Let me do a quick analysis here.
Khalil Mack.
So the Titans are 7-7 and in first place in the AFC South. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 6-8 in second place with their playoff chances still alive. Guess what's going to happen this weekend? The Jags are going to win and the Titans are going to lose. No, stop, Ben. Stop. Okay, so after keeping it close in Dallas before falling to the Cowboys 27-23 back in week 14, the Texans treated their home crowd to an exciting battle against the Chiefs last week that actually went to overtime. How shocked were you that the Texans took the Chiefs to overtime? That was crazy.
It's just that this season is so crazy, it's hard to be shocked at anything.
I'm telling you, they opened the game with a 7-0 lead in the first quarter, and they held the lead for most of the game. Davis Mills threw 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and took no sacks, Chiefs defense. He did lose a fumble, but for the most part, he protected the ball well. The defense turned the Chiefs over 4 times. Yes, the Texans defense turned the Chiefs over 4 times. 2 interceptions of Patrick Mahomes, 2 fumble recoveries. They also recorded 2 sacks, one of which stopped the Chiefs' opening drive in overtime. But unfortunately, as soon as they got the ball back, Davis Mills fumbled the ball right back to the Chiefs, who won the game on a 26-yard touchdown run by Jerick McKinnon, former 49er.
Former 49er.
Wow. Whew, what a game that was. Now, it's no secret the Titans depend on a strong ground game and tough defense. They pretty much have been living on that. Tannehill's best days are far behind him, and now you're telling me the guy's out for the season. This is crazy. Unfortunately, when they run up against teams with pretty good and or diverse offenses, sometimes that run game good defense is not enough. Derrick Henry did his thing with 104 yards and 21 carries. Ryan Tannehill scored on a 1-yard quarterback sneak with 48 seconds left versus the Chargers, but they couldn't stop Justin Herbert from going 52 yards in 6 plays. And Cameron Dicker, the kicker, won the game with a 43-yard field goal. So much for the Titans, man. Throw dirt on them bums. I think the Texans go down to Tennessee and beat them and put them out of their misery. Yeah, I'm taking
Titans
the Texans.
5.9 favors the Titans. Ben's going with the Texans. He likes them guys.
I like them this week.
Especially now with Malik Willis coming in, and this will be with his first or second start, something of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we like Malik. He's a great young man, and
yeah, but he hasn't been impressive.
He hasn't been impressive. That is true. That is true. So we shall see how that works out. Next up, Lions at Panthers by a split score of 4.7 favors the Lions in what you could call a cat fight.
Oh man, you're hilarious sometimes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the Lions are 7-7, looking pretty good. especially lately. Now, it wasn't easy. They played the Jets last week. The Jets defense is good. But Jared Goff and the Lions offense continue to come up big in close games. Down 17-13 in the fourth quarter with 1:49 left. Jared Goff threw a touchdown pass to Brock Wright, who went 51 yards for the winning score. The improving Lions defense intercepted Zach Wilson once, sacked him 4 times. I'm really, really liking the Lions lately. I think I'm going to like them this week too, going down to Carolina. Despite losing to the Steelers last week, the Panthers still have a chance to make the playoffs. Crazy as that sounds, they would have to win out though. That's one playoff scenario I'm pretty sure about. If they win out, they could make the playoffs, but they would have to win out regardless of what anybody else does. Sam Darnold played well, going 14-23 for 225 and 1 touchdown. But the Steelers D shut down the Carolina run game, which was good earlier in the season, but hasn't been as good lately. I don't know if they're missing people on the offensive line or whatever, but their run game really has lost some steam. I'm going to take the Lions to win this one.
Going with the bias, going with the Lions. Next up, say it with me, Benny. The Commanders.
Oh, gosh.
Going into Levi Stadium to see my Niners. Bias plus score 12.3 favors the 49ers.
Oof, man, tough one for the Commanders. Sitting at 7-6 in a huge must-win game last week for both teams. The Commanders lost to division rival New York Giants. It was a tough night for Taylor Heineke, who was sacked 3 times, hit 8 times, and fumbled twice. It was such a tough game that Carson Wentz's name has been mentioned. There are whispers, but I don't think they'll resort to that. I could be wrong, but I don't think they will. Now, let's talk about the Niners. Backup quarterback Brock Purdy was a little banged up last week. I think he had a little oblique injury, but he was able to start, and he led the 49ers to win over the Seahawks in Seattle. Now, I found out after not making any throws during his limited practice sessions during the week, no throws, they didn't allow him to throw the ball at all. He made some really big throws in the game. 2 of them were touchdown passes to tight end George Kittle. Running back Christian McCaffrey continued his great season with 108 yards and a touchdown on 26 carries. And he had another 30 yards on 6 catches. This guy's all-purpose, man. He's all-purpose. The defense, which, again, I will continue to say I love, was stellar again, holding Seattle to 308 hard-fought total yards and only 1 touchdown. Take the Niners in this one with no problem.
Taking the Niners. You know, it's interesting, Ben. We saw that statistic on how teams fare the week after they play the Niners.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be too presumptuous about us beating the Commanders. I'm going to give them some respect. But the Commanders have to host the Browns the week after. That's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. My Niners are going in to see the Raiders after that, but not a problem. 49ers favored 12.3. Ben's going with the bias, going with the Niners. Next up, here you go. Eagles at Cowboys. Bias plus score of 2.5 favors the Eagles. And I do believe Vegas has the Cowboys favorite 3.5 favorites.
3.5 points?
3.5 points, yeah.
Only because they're home.
There you go. That's a big part of it.
And also, I don't know what it was early on before they pretty much announced that Jalen Hurts wasn't going to play. That could go up. But if it's 3.5 points right now, that kind of makes sense. This game's going to tell us a lot about the Eagles. I myself have said that I felt the Eagles were, if not the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in the NFC when you got to look at the Niners, of course, also. Forget all the stuff that Micah Parsons said about Jalen Hurts being a system quarterback. If, in fact, he really believed that, then guess what? Gardner Minshew will probably go down there and beat these guys. If the team is as good as I think they are, and a lot of Eagles fans think they are, the Eagles should go down there and they should win this game. But I don't know if they will or not. I will say this. They got a little more than they bargained for against the Bears in Chicago last week. It was extremely cold, but Justin Fields gave their defense fits. Even though they sacked him 6 times and Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions and Miles Sanders lost a fumble. But in the end, the Eagles were the superior team and they were able to squeak by 25-20. But I'll tell you what, Justin Fields, and he got a little banged up in this game, but I'm telling you, this guy just puts the whole offense on his back. He is a nightmare. Their run-pass option game with a guy like Justin Fields is pretty devastating. Now, he does have to make a few throws from time to time, but on the ground, he's really, really tough. But forget about all that. The Eagles came through. They did win the game. Another embarrassing defeat was suffered by Dallas, who fell to Jacksonville 40-34. Yeah, Jacksonville, that's who they fell to. Dak Prescott threw 3 touchdown passes in what turned into a shootout with Trevor Lawrence, but he also threw 2 bad interceptions. The defense, which was being called a Super Bowl level defense early in the season, got trashed by Trevor Lawrence to the tune of 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not to mention Travis Etienne had a nice day with 103 yards on 19 carries. Forget about it, Cowboys. I'm taking the Eagles in this game. Gardner Minshew, I don't care. The Eagles are better than the Cowboys. They're going to win this game.
I was impressed when Gardner Minshew stepped in last season.
Yes.
I thought he had a good command. I thought he, it's a different game. And when you mentioned Justin Fields and you mentioned when you talk about Jalen Hurts, and they have the ability to make you play 11-on-11 football even when you don't want to. And it just, it changes the game when the quarterback can do that. Now, we know the risks of getting injured and all of that. You just said about Fields having some injuries. We know Jalen got, has a shoulder, or at least they're saying he has a shoulder. I don't know if they're playing subterfuge games here. Jalen's hurt. Next thing you know, he's out there looking like a champ. But long story short, you can take a team like the Bears, and when you have a athlete at quarterback like that, it just makes the game, just changes the game, because again, we go to 11-11. They won't be doing that. It'll be more conventional football with the Eagles.
Yes. The real challenge for the Eagles in this game is going to fall on the coaching staff.
I believe because they have such an excellent offensive line, the lines are good, that Minshew can do some damage back there. So I still think that this bias can hold. It's close. This is no big time bias. We've seen 15-point biases already in this session. So it's going to be a pretty close game, and they have to go into Dallas and do it. But I'm looking forward to seeing this. This should be interesting football, no doubt about it. Let's see now. That would be that's on Saturday too, right?
I believe so.
All righty. Saturday, we're looking at the Eagles at Cowboys. That's a 4:25 game. The Commanders at my Niners is a 4 o'clock game. Evening on Saturday, yeah. So this is Saturday, football. You're going to go with the Eagles, going with the bias. And then we have the Saturday night special. Raiders at Steelers. Bias plus score 3.4 favors the Raiders. We want to say rest in peace to one Franco Harris.
Yes, I was going to say that Franco Harris, who I actually went to college with when I spent a year up at Penn State. And this is the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception was this weekend too. And there was going to be a whole bunch of talk about the Immaculate Reception and going over that game and going over the whole legacy left behind by Franco Harris, who has now passed away right before the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, which happened against the Raiders. So I know Mike Tomlin gave a really nice talk about trying to honor Franco with the way that they play this weekend. So there's some motivation there for the Steelers. But let's just talk about this game. Raiders are 6-8. They have to go to Pittsburgh. Last week, Derek Carr threw for 231 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Josh Jacobs ran for 93 yards on 22 carries. Jacobs and Carr pretty much the whole offense. Obviously, Carr and Devontae Adams make up the air attack mostly. Josh Jacobs with the ground attack, and they did that against New England last week. They held a 17-3 lead at halftime before allowing the Patriots to run off 21 straight points. We got a problem with this Raider defense. They did come back, score 2 touchdowns in the final 32 seconds. The final one on a pickoff of a crazy lateral that went into the hands of Jacoby Jones, who then mushed Mac Jones and went all the way for the score to end the game. So you can call it lucky if you want. I don't know. They did come back in the final seconds to tie the game up, to take it to overtime if the Patriots had let it go to overtime, but instead decided to throw the game away. So congratulations, Raiders. Now they have to go to Pittsburgh. Let's talk about the Steelers. With 3 games left, the Steelers still have a chance to finish at least 500. And that would avoid Coach Tomlin's first losing season since becoming the head coach of the Steelers, which I didn't even look back and see how long he's been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's been a long time. The guy's never had a losing season. Kenny Pickett was out last week with a concussion, and Mitch Trubisky started and actually had a solid game, believe it or not. He was 17-22 for a mere 179 yards, but he had no turnovers, and he did score a touchdown on a 1-yard run. I think it was a 1-yard run. Najee Harris also scored and gained a solid 86 yards on 24 carries. So I want to take the Raiders in this game. The Raiders really need to win in this game. I think the Raiders will win this game. You hear me talking myself into it?
I'm listening to you. I'm wondering what's going on.
I sound crazy, don't I?
Yes,
Go with the bias. Take the Raiders.
Go with the bias, going with the Raiders. Benny, let me tell you a quick story, and I don't know if I've ever told you this.
The story about Franco?
This is about Franco.
I'm not sure if you told me or not. I don't remember, but go ahead.
So this was way back when I was working for the Bell companies. They had just broken up the company, or the AT&T, and we had Bell Atlantic was brand new. And I worked for a subsidiary, Bell Atlanticom. I was in marketing. So I'm downtown, I'm on JFK Boulevard. I'm walking down JFK Boulevard, and I look up and I see a big tractor trailer parked next to one of the hotels, one of the high rises down there. And I see this guy coming out to the tractor trailer, and I'm looking and I go, that's Franco Harris.
Hmm.
So I'm going up to him. I pull out my business card and I'm like, hey, Franco, can I get your autograph? And he's like a great guy. He's like, yeah, no problem. And he's signing my card and everything. I don't know where the card is right now. Okay.
Oh no.
Don't know
Are
where
you
the card is.
serious?
I'm serious. He's
You
signing my
lost the
card.
autograph of a Hall of Famer?
Dude, let me finish the
Bro.
story. It's bad enough, right? So he's signing my card, and these two girls are walking up, and they see what's going on, and they kind of see him giving me an autograph. And the one girl walks up, and she looks at him, she goes, "I know you. You're a friend talking to, right?"
No.
Oh, I'm like, he was so smooth though, and he said something that I didn't understand at the time.
Okay.
But almost 20 years later, it had a major impact in my life. He said, no, I'm not him, but I wish I had his money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I had no clue. I mean, he's a professional football player. Everybody got money, and then, it kind of went right over my head.
Right.
Right over, okay?
Right.
So it's almost 20 years later. I become an associate with, at the time, Prepaid Legal, now Legal Shield. Actually, now it's PPLSI, but Legal Shield.
Right.
And our partner company was Go Small Biz, which was run by Fran Tarkenton. So I wound up actually working with and for Fran Tarkenton.
Wow.
And I didn't have it for the show. I thought about it, but I didn't get that done.
Right.
Me getting my book signed by Fran Tarkenton. I've got some football. As a matter of fact, I gave our friend Ron Diggs, a Vikings fan, one of the signed Fran Tarkenton footballs.
Cool.
But it just so had, again, he said, I wish I had his money. And it was later I found out Fran Tarkenton was a serial entrepreneur who had started a number of companies and was so good at starting companies that he started a company to help other people with their businesses.
Yeah.
So, so it had a big, impact on my life. And I'll never forget that he said that. So
Yeah.
I know I'm not him, but I wish I had his money.
I wish I had his money. And that's something.
So there you go. My Franco Harris story. And again, I have no idea where that card is, Benny. No idea.
I got some Franco stories too, because I was at Penn State when he was up there, but I'm not going to tell none of my stories.
Yeah, hold on to those guys. What happened at Penn State stays at Penn State.
Stays at Penn State. Right.
All right, there you go. Next up, what do we got here? So we had the Raiders and the Steelers. You are going with the Raiders.
Yep.
Packers at Dolphins. Bias score 2.4 favors the Dolphins.
Interesting game. This
is another potential intriguing game for me.
I agree.
This kicks off the Sunday games. This is the first game Sunday at 1:00. So now we're into the tail end of it. 3 games on Sunday. This is the first one, and it looks kind of intriguing, Benny. The Packers are not dead yet. The Dolphins are looking for life. It's after the Packers just had a good win, I believe.
Yes.
And the Dolphins just had a close loss.
Yes.
And the Packers got to go down there in that Miami weather.
Yes. The Packers put together a very solid performance on both sides of the ball against the Rams. Of course, the Rams don't, they're not really playing well. But anyway, Aaron Rodgers was 22 of 30 for 229 and a touchdown. Aaron Jones had 17 carries for 90 yards, caught 4 balls for 36 and another touchdown. And A.J. Dillon, who I like to call Baby Jerome Bettis, scored 2 touchdowns on the ground. The defense was tough on Baker Mayfield, intercepting him once and sacking him 5 times. So the Packers were pretty impressive in that win over the Rams. Meanwhile, the Miami Dolphins played surprisingly well in the freezing cold and snow of Buffalo. They beat Buffalo in Miami back in September, but the Bills returned the favor this time. Still, Raheem Mostert, former 49er running back, flashed for 136 yards on 19 carries and 2 or 3 TD passes to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Unfortunately, Josh Allen led the Bills on 2 scoring drives late, and the Bills won on a field goal by Tyler Bass. That being said, I would like to see the Packers go down to Miami and win that game, but I think the Dolphins needed more, and I think they're going to be propped up by the performance that they put on in Buffalo. I believe the Dolphins will beat the Packers. Yeah, I'm taking the Dolphins.
Going with the Dolphins. And you know, when I was talking
I
about
had to talk myself into that one too.
when I was talking about Fields and Hurts and how they changed it into an 11-on-11 game, I literally watched Bills quarterback Josh Allen at one point, I believe it was in the fourth quarter, just take the game over, just start running. You know, and there was nothing they could do. Next thing you know, he's down there by the goal line. You know what I mean? And just took the game over. I mean, so, you know, they changed the game. If you're playing, you know, almost like a conventional game, rushing your line and, you know, covering and all of that stuff, and then all of a sudden he starts, no, I'm gonna make this an 11-on-11 game. Man, you got to really be ready for that, you know. And Josh Allen is what, 6'5", something like that.
Yeah, he's a big kid.
He's a big young man. Yes, he is. So you're going with the Dolphins, going with the bias. I don't blame you. All right. Broncos at Rams. That's the 4:30 game on Christmas Day. I mean, okay. It could be some decent football. You know, you're talking about both teams that are pretty much at the bottom of the net point power rankings. But we know the Broncos have a good defense. A really good defense. We were top 5 in terms of defense. The Rams are, I don't believe, are top 5 in anything, but sort of middling. And I think Russell Wilson will be back for this. Willie,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson will be back for this. I mean, that's what folks are saying. Again, I haven't checked his practice schedule, but supposedly he should be back for this game. Now, a couple weeks ago, I said I was so disgusted with the Broncos that I would never pick them to win another game. Then last week, I couldn't resist, and I did pick them to win a game, and they did, in fact, win the game. Brett Rippon started for the concussed Russell Wilson and led the Broncos to their first win in months. I think the last time they won a game was probably back in October sometime. He threw a touchdown pass under tremendous pressure. J.J. Watt was ripping their offensive line, man. J.J. Watt was going off. They sacked Brett Rippon 7 times, but somehow he did throw 1 touchdown pass. Latavius Murray had a good game on the ground, 130 yards and a touchdown on 24 carries. The Broncos were able to pull out that win against Arizona, who's really leaking right now. Baker Mayfield came back to earth, losing to the Packers under extreme pressure from their pass rush. He got sacked 5 times, hit 5 times. Rams are looking really weak. I'm going to say that the Broncos are going to beat the Rams. I think Russell's had a week off to get his concussed brain back together, and he's going to get a win in L.A. Go with the Broncos.
Going with the Broncos.
Hey, they're both 4-10, bro.
Yeah, they're both 4-10. I mean, you know, what can I tell you? If you're looking at them in terms of net points, just go to the bottom here. The Rams are coming in at what, 30th at minus 6.4 net points. Denver is 23rd at minus 2.5. So
yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. Buccaneers at Cardinals. Cardinals minus 5.7 net points. And the Buccaneers, not much better, but they are better than that. So 1.6 favors the Buccaneers.
Yeah, Bucks holding on at 6-8, trying to hold on to the division lead. Luckily for them, I guess luckily for them, they only have to contend with the Panthers and the Saints and the Falcons, but still, danger is lurking. Tom Brady put up good numbers, but ultimately got outplayed by Joe Burrow last week. 30 of 44 for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns was a great day, but Brady was responsible for 4 turnovers. You cannot win like that. I don't care if you're the GOAT or not. Got picked twice, and he fumbled the ball twice. Now, Arizona's defense sacked Brett Rippon of the Broncos 7 times, but the offense has nothing but problems on top of problems. Kyler Murray's out. Backup quarterback Colt McCoy suffered a concussion, and the Cards had to go with their 3rd stringer, Trace McSorley.
McSorley?
Yeah, we haven't heard from McSorley since he was with the Ravens. He'll be starting against the Bucks this week because Colt McCoy is still in concussion protocol. Take the Buccaneers. Cardinals just have nothing going on offense. These guys cannot score.
All right, so there's your Buccaneers and Cardinals. That's the 8:20 game on Sunday night. Hey, look, we will have given out any gifts. We have eaten whatever food we're going to eat. So if we fall asleep on that one, it'll be okay. We'll catch the highlights the next day. But Benny, think about it. We got football on Thursday. We got football on Saturday, football on Sunday. And Monday, we're going to close out the week. The Monday night game, the Chargers at the Indianapolis Colts. Gee, Christmas. By a split score of 9 favors the Chargers, Benny. I'll let you say what you want to say, and then I'll say what I want to say about the Colts.
Okay. So Chargers got to go to Indianapolis. They're 8-6. Justin Herbert didn't throw any touchdown passes, which I don't feel good about that. On top of that, he did throw 2 picks. I really don't feel good about that. But he did throw the ball well enough to keep the chains moving and keep drives alive. And he got good work on the ground from Austin Eckler and backup running back Joshua Kelly. Now, Herbert did throw enough good passes on the drive that took his team downfield to win the game with a field goal. In fact, he went 52 yards in 6 plays, and that drive started with 48 seconds left on the clock. And that's when Dicker, the kicker, kicked the field goal to win the game. So the Chargers got the win there. Wasn't the best game for Justin Herbert, but he did enough. Indy squandered the 33-point lead to the Vikings that led to the biggest regular season comeback in NFL history. Anytime you have something that was the biggest or the best in NFL history, you can't repeat it enough times. So, that being said, that's it for Matt Ryan. Nick Foles will start the next game against the Chargers. And as far as I'm concerned, that's it for Jeff Saturday, too. I'm done with this dude, man. That was a mess. If you're the coach of the team that loses the biggest comeback in NFL regular season history, shame, shame, shame on you. Especially, well, you know what? I'm not even going to go any further. I'm going to let you say what you got to say about the Colts. But let me say that before you start, take the Chargers to win this game.
Going with the bias, going with the Chargers.
Yep. Now you may proceed.
All right, you mentioned the coach, so I guess what I'm saying is definitely going to be directed at Jeff Saturday and the coaching staff. And you can never leave out the players. You know, they're on the field.
Right.
But I'm sorry, I cannot accept the loss of Jonathan Taylor as a reason that you have no run game.
No.
I cannot accept that. And then you allow the Minnesota team to come back. There's two objectives when you have a lead like that, and that for that second half. Okay.
Right.
Number one, kill the clock. It's almost like four corners basketball. When you got a 30-point lead, whenever you have a lead, they say the clock is your friend. But 30-point lead, so that means that you have to have a run game, or you have to have a quick pass game that is in effect a long handoff. What you don't want is you don't want Matty Statue standing back there in an empty set looking for people to throw to while they're blitzing the slop out of him, and he can't move anywhere. It looked like the end of the Statue Boys. Tommy Statue, Andy Dalton Statue, you know, all of these guys that cannot move are all, I think, pretty much on the way out. We were talking about what the mobile quarterbacks, what kind of quandary they put you in when they go into 11 on 11. Well, these guys can't even escape a rush. They can't even do a good rollout for the most part. And the other thing that you can't do is you can't allow big plays. Okay? You can't let their running back run like 68 yards for a touchdown. That's not even a pass. It wasn't even a bomb. He ran through your entire defense.
Right.
That was just ridiculous. So you can't allow big plays. If you just kill, I believe if they had ran the ball maybe once or twice, one or two more series. If you take your time, what do you got, a 40-second play clock? So 3 runs is what, 120 seconds? That's at least 2 minutes.
It's almost unfathomable. I can't even say it. That they didn't try to run the ball. And then to put Matt Ryan back there in an empty backfield, you don't even have the threat of play action now. This is crazy. It's like they wanted to lose. That's insane. And the funny thing is, and I sent you the video of an old Colts game where Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday, who are good friends, got into a big argument on the sideline because Jeff Saturday wanted to run the ball in the game that they were playing, and Peyton Manning was telling him to shut up and stop complaining because he was calling the plays. And Jeff Saturday was giving him the business, telling him, we need to run the ball. We need to run the ball. And Peyton Manning is saying, shut up, I call the plays. It was crazy. How could you do that and then do this as a coach? Or maybe not do this?
The Colts literally had the ball more time in the first half than they did the second half,
and did nothing with
it. So all you had to do was, I don't care if you ran it 3 times and punted every time.
Right, they'd have been better off than turning it over.
8 minutes, and that's pretty much it.
Yes.
So yeah, I was just so disappointed. If you go to Ben and Barry on Football's Facebook page, Benny, I looked it up. There's actually a definition. They call it brain farts.
Mm-hmm.
I call them mind farts. And as I said to you, I believe there ought to be a statistic in the NFL called mind farts that we can track, because, that it showed itself with the Patriots-Raiders game. I mean, that was a humongous mind fart from the coach on down to the players. And then you had the same thing here, but more on a team level than I could point out any one particular player. But the tackling was atrocious.
Yep.
And the whole concept of what they were running just absolutely made no sense. In any event, Chargers at Colts, Justin Herbert is going to come in there and handle business, you believe, eh?
Yes, I do.
Bias plus score 9 favors the Chargers. Ben's going with the Chargers. Well, let me see now. That wraps up the Monday night football game. That's going to be a heck of a Christmas weekend of football.
It's going to be great. And the weather's going to be bad outside. I have nothing I have to do that's going to require me going out Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm in the house. I went to the state store today. I loaded up on my liquor. I got beer. I got food. I'm good to go.
Good to go. There you go. Fantastic. But we do have one more piece of business, Benny.
Mm-hmm.
The Bias Plus Buster of the Week.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns, who were not favored. They had an unfavorable bias plus score of 10.1, which is kind of healthy, but a net win score of plus 10, giving them a bias plus buster score of 20.1. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns.
Yay. And congratulations to Deshaun Watson, who is starting to get his act together and might look like the quarterback of old maybe before the season is over.
Maybe before the season's over, he'll get a few more reps in, and we'll see how that all goes. But okay. We put in some work there, Benny.
Yeah.
We talked about all the things that we would want to talk about. The one thing I think that shook both of us this weekend, or this week rather, the arrest of Willie McGinest. The arrest of Willie McGinest. Now, Benny, we have on our page the article talking about his arrest and what happened, but we also have the video. And you and I saw the video. Now, in the video, we called it looked like an old-fashioned move job, which is what we say in Philadelphia when you got a bunch of people jumping on one guy. I mean, Willie McGinest basically walks up to a guy, says something that's sitting in a booth, and then he starts wailing on him, and then the group that he was with starts wailing on him, and then you see Willie up underneath the crowd doing something with him, and then he pulls out a bottle and sits it on a bench. But as much as this whole thing was a shock, there's two things that just stood out to me. Number one, the people on the evening NFL show, what show is he on?
Total Access, probably.
Total Access, right.
Right.
Nothing. You hear nothing about it.
They no.
Nothing. But what's even more interesting, I don't even hear it on ESPN or FS1. I haven't seen it on any of the major.
I haven't either.
Nobody's talking about this.
It's crazy, man.
How do you have Willie McGinest is like the grown man in the room. Whenever you have a room of people, so much respect for him, so much about his whole demeanor has always been just mature. And then to see this is and you hear nothing about it. I mean, there's articles and stuff, but even McGinest says something about the truth will come out and like he's innocent or whatever. I don't know what he could think he's innocent about, because as far as I'm concerned, this was, what do they call it? Premeditated?
Yeah. He's definitely not innocent.
So he has been suspended. First, they just dropped him off the show. Now he's been officially suspended by the NFL. They're pending the investigation.
Okay. But they're not going to talk about it until more facts come out. And
that shouldn't stop ESPN.
No, well, I wouldn't think so.
I'm not even seeing it on the news, like regular CNN or any of that stuff.
I don't know what's going on. I would expect to see it on regular news, first of all. So, but I'm thinking it's probably not on ESPN simply because of the respect factor. again, I believe all the sports programs are going to wait until the facts come out before they actually report on it so they can get it out, get it over with, and be done with it. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's really great at his television job, just like he was a great player. Everybody loved him. And when you look at the video, like I think we both agree, it looks like what they would call a crime of passion. I don't know what exactly is going on and why he did what he did, but I think people are really trying to be patient and save their comments until they find out more.
All right. Still shocks me though. I mean, I guess maybe I don't watch TMZ. So if it's, they reported on it. So you might see it on a show like TMZ.
Right.
But 3610, Fox, all of that, not a thing.
Nothing.
Not a thing. But guess where you can find the details? Ben and Barry on football Facebook page.
That's right.
So you can find us there. All right, Benny. That's it for me. You got anything?
Go Noles.
Good luck on your trip.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Coming up.